Hi everyone, it's our pleasure to present our paper, The Evaluator Age at Higgs. I'm Wei Chen from University of Connecticut. So this is a joint work with my colleague Brian at University of Connecticut and Himan Bhagwa from UC Davis. So since about 1 year ago, we started to think about what would generative AI bring to the future of knowledge work. And after a conversation with Brian, who has a doctor in education, this evaluator age idea came into being. So the main idea here is that now, as with generative AI, it is really reshaping our knowledge work. Now they can generate very fast in very high quality, and our value shifts from the content generator or the producer to evaluators. So that's the big idea there. Brian has this idea, historical view of the 3 ages of knowledge work. I think it's very nice. So we start from the preserver age, that's from the agriculture society. Then we move to the producer age, which is in the industrial society. And once we move to information society, especially in the AI era, we are gradually getting into evaluator age. I'm going to come back to this after I introduce these 3 ages, but now let's get into each of these one by one. So first, it's the preserver age. So this, we really have to go back in history to the 1500s, 1600s, when knowledge work becomes a profession. And at that time, it's rooted in the agriculture society. Knowledge is scarce, right? It's a finite resource, and you have to carefully preserve it. You gather it from oral traditions and pass it down to the next generation. So scholars, in this case, they are custodians of knowledge, and libraries are at the heart of institutions. All our universities brag that we have the largest library in the world, right? So the master preserver, in this case, they become masters through memorization and passing down the information, and also with oral traditions that they talk about the knowledge. So it's a little bit of memorization, but also showmanship and public speaking. So that's kind of the preserver age. Now, as time went by, we moved into the industrial age. The industrial revolution changed a lot of things. Now, knowledge becomes a dynamic resource that can be actively synthesized and expanded. Now, universities became the engine of innovation, and that's still how we are operating today. But things maybe are changing very quickly. And the scientific methods has been invented in this era, right? So we generate a hypothesis, we test our ideas using experiments, we either reject it or we cannot reject it. So with that, we falsify some hypotheses, and then we create new knowledge in this way. In the industry, it's the same thing. This is the whole idea of the lean startup idea, right? So we create minimum viable product and we test it with the market. If we find the product market fit, we move forward. If not, we pivot, right? So the same idea. So in this age, how do we evaluate the master producer? We have the standard tests, right? So SAT, GMAT, all these standard tests and the professional certificates, they become standardized assessments so that we can see who is the master producer in this age. now quickly move into our evaluator age. So today, generative AI can produce massive amount of information. But are they meaningful to us as human beings? Is a problem, right? So we have to evaluate that. Also, generative AI have a fundamental bug or feature. That is, it hallucinates. It's rooted in the probable nature of the large language models. So as a result, they are going to create errors or false statement that seems legit. So in this case, we as the evaluator has to be carefully evaluate what's been generated. So our job in this case start to work with AI to extract and verify insights, or iteratively evaluate and refine what AI produces, and lastly have our ethical oversight so that we can ensure the accuracy and human relevance. So now when you put the three ages together, we are trying to put some structure into this. So we are thinking about knowledge work in terms of the input, process, and output. So it's knowledge work, right? So it's about information processing. So in the preserver age, we gather knowledge, we memorize things, and we recite and pass it over to the next generation. In the producer age, we get very specialized, and in each of our profession, we do hypotheses and we do experiment to test the hypothesis. And for the output, we have specialized knowledge in each discipline, and we have exams to test what's a master producer. And now, when we moved into evaluator age, we have been thinking about this. The input now has to span multiple disciplines. It's not just so specialized. People has to have a broad knowledge so that they can evaluate the relevance of the solutions. In the processing of the information, we have to synthesize and we have to prompt the generative AI, the AI to do things. And lastly, for the output, we have to evaluate the output to make sure the accuracy and the relevance. So we are really starting to see the dawn of the evaluator age. So the evaluator is a critical partner to AI, tasked with prompting, interpreting, judging, refining, and ethically overseeing what machines produce. So what it does is now this is not a replacement of the producer age, but a refinement of it. So now we really have a better tool that we can use to expand our intellectual capability. It's like that we don't really envy the high-speed train or the car that it runs faster than us, right? Once we understand it, we just use it as another tool. So now the question is, what should we do to educate our students in this new age? So here is what we came up with. So we think that it's not just one skill, but it's kind of 4 competencies that's still surrounding from our traditional skills that we teach, but just adding AI literacy on top. So at the core, it's still the domain knowledge. Then we teach them scientific methods, and then critical questioning and ethical judgment, and then the AI literacy. Now let me get into each one of this very briefly. So at the core, it's still the domain knowledge. So there is a quote, AI provides the clay, experts must be the sculptor. So the idea is AI will generate a lot of things. Without domain knowledge, we cannot even evaluate it. So like think about a student who is taking my database class. If they don't know anything about database, there is no way they can evaluate the SQL language that's generated from generative AI. So the domain knowledge is still a very important core of the evaluator. The second layer, we have scientific methods. This is to emphasize that they have to know a rigorous way to tell what's true from what's false. So we have hypothesis generation, experimentation, and testing, right? So like unless they know this, there is no way they can really tell what AI is generating. You can use AI to generate hypotheses, but in the end, we have to test that with experiments to make sure it's really true. Then what's more important is layer 3. Perhaps the most important kind of skills or characteristics of our evaluator. That is, we really have to have a critical questioning and ethical judgment capability so that they can pause and reflect, right? So critical questioning is to deal with the hallucinations that AI generates, and ethical judgment is to make sure that what AI output is relevant to the human beings. And lastly, we have the AI literacy. Students has to understand what we are creating here. So they have to understand how AI is behaving. So that's kind of the 4 layers that we came up with in this article. Of course, this is still early work, so any discussions or suggestions will be very welcome. So now, if you put that into context, the university's new mission becomes from training producers to cultivate evaluators. So now we have to adjust how we teach our next generation of students. Now, they have been 2 years in the generative AI era since 2023, right? And in 4 years, all our students are going to be equipped with generative AI when they even get into the university. So we have to work hard to change our curriculum to keep up. So what shall we do? The first one that we thought about was integrating AI literacy with domain knowledge. So that has been done, been talked about. But one thing that I realized with my own experience is my expertise becomes the upper bound of the combined system of me and the AI. So if I know the things very well, I can guide the AI very well, and I can get very deep results. If I don't understand what's happening in that system, I can prompt left and right, and the AI will go left and right, but it just cannot hit the critical points that I'm hoping for. So second, we should still emphasize scientific thinking and evaluation. And third, we should practice ethical judgment and critical questioning, and that has to be integrated into the curriculum. In the past, we have been talking about critical thinking, but how to incorporate that effectively and now massively into our education is a not new topic in front of us. And lastly, we need to expand interdisciplinary learning and communication so that students can have the capability to get insights from different disciplines and practice this ethical judgment so that their view is not so lateral. Okay, so That's the main idea of this paper, that it's just our initial thinking about what generative AI would bring to knowledge work. And the central idea is that now we become evaluators. It's not a replacement of human creativity, but an enhancement of it. Our capability to evaluate it is becoming more and more vital. So, but there is an open question here. So, we're going to just leave it out here. In the past, we have the standard tests like SAT or other tests to evaluate a good student or a student that's ready for the job, right? But now, if we are teaching AI evaluators, how do we measure success? How do we know as an educator that our success student is ready for the job market or for graduation, right? So we cannot rely on memorization because AI does that much better. We cannot, so we have to evaluate them working with AI. So that's something that I don't think there is a ready answer yet. And for industry, it's the same thing. How do they know that they are hiring someone who is a good evaluator, who can really work very effectively with AI? I don't think they have any idea either. So it's going to be a combined effort from higher education, from industry, and society in like all together to refine our curriculum and recognize humans as essential gatekeepers and ensure AI serves progress instead of kind of dystopia. Make sure what's generated is guided by human value. All right, that's all about this presentation. Thank you.